And we're back with the Cardiff City phone in. We waited for the transfer window to slam shut, and also for Cardiff City to be top of the league. We've done it. Great timing. It's all well planned. Honest. We got Sai joining us very soon as well from this podcast nation. Who's fresh from looking at the transfer window as it comes to a close. So I just bring him in. Sai, I'll come to you in a second because you'll have the very latest on that stuff. We've also got Nigel Blues with us with his stunning caption, "We are top of the league," which hopefully will continue as we go through the season.
Yeah, you're staying there till May.
And Steve Wiggy Wiggins, so it's a good panel, and loads of talk about fantastic start to the season, absolutely dreamland stuff really. We'll get back to how well the club's doing in a second, but firstly I'll go to Sai, and maybe you can summarize the transfer window and how it's all sort of come to conclusion. Just a £90 million player and a top class defender coming in the last couple of days. So
yeah, I think ultimately it came down to one thing, is that the manager wanted a certain level of quality, and I think when you look at Nathan Trott, who came from Copenhagen, he is just like another level to any keeper we've had in recent years. I would argue since David Marshall. And then Osho, obviously he's picked him up from Ligue 1, and if you go and watch him play against PSG fairly recently, he just looks like such a player. But most importantly, he looks like a leader, which is obviously something that we've lacked in recent years.
Yeah.
How he gets in the side, now that is another question, because
is he left-footed side? Is he left-footed?
No, he's right-footed.
Is he?
But he does also play defensive midfield.
Yeah, he plays right across the back four, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he plays in midfield as well, which is interesting. So maybe that's how they get him in the side. But I mean, and then as you mentioned, Omari Kellyman from Chelsea, 19 million, only 12 months ago. He moved from Villa. He was playing first team football for Villa before his move, and he also. Or should I say, I was speaking to a Chelsea fan in my DMs today, and they can't believe he's gone on loan, let alone to League One, because they felt that when he was fit, he'd have been in and around the first team squad, which I kind of think tells you about the quality that he's got, at least. But obviously, the main thing will be trying to get him up to match fitness after a bad injury. I think it's been a great window, because we kept Dylan at the Colwells, we kept Yusuf Salic, and we signed Dylan Lawler to a long-term contract. So as far as I'm concerned, that's an excellent window.
Is that a live cat going on somewhere?
Yeah, that's my cat, unfortunately.
I thought I left the window open. So how would you sum up your feelings on the transfer window then? If you gave it a rating out of 10, say?
Oh, so I someone just asked me this, so I'll tell you the same thing I just said to them, is if you split it into ins and outs, because I would give the outs probably an 8.5, maybe even a 9, maybe. The ins, I would give a 7. So maybe you sort of split the difference and maybe a 7.5, because I do think me personally, I'm happy with Louis Giles being the backup to Joe Bagan, and the option to play Perry NG at left back. But I do think there's an argument that we're a little bit light in the left back area. And I also like that he asked Nyakawa to stay and fight for his place in the first team, because he gives us another quite quick, direct option in the wide areas, which is, again, something we've lacked.
Yeah, because there were 3 or 4 clubs apparently interested, including Anderlecht, which is interesting, and I think it was Kilmarnock and the Scottish top division and whatever. And that's I suppose. Sai, I know you can only be with us for a short while, so I'll stick with you for a bit. That's a sign of just how amazingly well these youngsters are doing. You get someone like him, and then we're gonna have fun. How we pronounce his name, aren't we? I'm sure there's like 10 different ways we could go with, but he's not really had that much game time, has he? For City, and already, is that a sign of how good a batch of youngsters we have coming through? That sort of says it all, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think we've gone from having maybe one or two sellable assets that people would genuinely have an interest in, to all of a sudden, I think we've got them all over the place. You know, there was some massive clubs in for Dylan Lawler this summer before he signed his contract. And I mean massive clubs. There was, Bundesliga clubs in for Yusuf Salic, Ruben Colwell, like there's going to be all sorts of rumored, or there has been rumors all day about him. But I mean, there was nothing to it, thankfully. And, all the other, Joel Colwell is someone who I think will be in the Wales squad the next sort of international break. We have suddenly got a lot of sellable assets. And as you rightly say, Naika Hawa has had a choice between Anderlecht, which historically is a massive, massive club in Belgium, and then obviously Scottish Premier League teams. And it's hard not to be happy, and it's hard not to be excited at the moment.
Yeah.
As you know, we haven't conceded a goal from open play in the league. We haven't. We've got 100%
in 9 hours. I think
we're scoring goals. It's exciting.
Yeah. So, Nigel, we were talking before we went live tonight. We said one of the things we said, we want Steve to go sideways tonight. He's done that, which is a nice touch. It's quite difficult to lie in that position, but he's doing well there. His workout over the summer has been going.
Oh, he's back.
He was only playing. I thought that was serious. But
I thought there'd been a landslide over your side of Barry, Steve.
No, we're posh down this end. Nigel, you know that.
Nigel, I was gonna say before we came on that what an amazing difference to the start of the season, which was disastrous, wasn't it? Absolutely disastrous last season compared to this. It's just
that's what we were saying last season in the league. It opened up with a draw and 5 defeats. This season's opened up with a draw and 5 wins. What a difference a year makes, or what a difference a month or 2 months make with City, because it was a fraught summer, wasn't it? We didn't know what was going on with the manager. There's been a concern over the lack of signings, and everything today looks absolutely perfect, really. No one could imagine we'd ever be where we are today. And more than that, it's exciting to go watch Cardiff City again. Yeah. Last season, it was a chore, wasn't it? So many games I was going to at the last minute last season. I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? But there's a real buzz again, and it's the first time in years, and everything is so positive. And I think that's really down to one man, the difference that BBM has made. It's been outstanding. How he's managed to turn it around and transform everything in such a short time is beyond incredible. But we've got to enjoy these days, because it's not going to be like this all season. No. But these good times are here at the moment. You do feel something special is happening again. So let's enjoy it while we can. This is fantastic stuff.
What do you think about? Do you know much? If I'm honest, I don't. Some of these players. We were talking earlier. Multi-million-pound players being sold, moving clubs today. Loads of them. To be honest, I've never heard of them. They're coming from all over the place. So I didn't know an awful lot about Ocho. I know he was in the Luton squad and got in the Premiership and all the rest of it. Is he somebody else who could possibly, do you think, provide some cover on the left if needed?
Sorry, Steve. The boy from Chelsea.
Ocho, the defender.
Oh, Ocho, yeah, I think he can. And I think, if you look at our defenders, we've got enough players there that I mentioned before. Joel Bagan's on 3 bookings already. And
yeah,
I love the way he gets stuck in. He's having a fantastic season. And I know, there's been some criticism of him, but I think he's a solid player every game. And in fact, he's raised his levels this season, hasn't he? He's really is looking accomplished.
I
wanted to play like... I want a dirty player, someone who's going to be physical, and if he's going to be suspended, and he's out for a game or 2, I think they got enough there to cover us. And obviously, the window's closed today. We've got to get to January, see where we are then.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure we're still going to be in a strong position by that time. And the way the feeling is around the club, they can really go for it, push on in January if needs be. But I think we're in a great position at the moment.
So Steve, there's a comment from Martin Ryan says Capaccio, who, by the way, hasn't he done well, can also play left back. He's very, very, very two-footed. And then, of course, Ollie Tanner, funny enough, if you remember, he filled in a left back, and I really liked it because he made he got down the left wing and put some good crosses in. I'm always banging on about that one. But what about somebody like Louis Giles, Steve? You know, because there was a rumor that he and Simon know this. There was a rumor that there were clubs interested, and he could have gone out on loan. But you know, him and the winger, we both decided to hang on to. Any thoughts on Louis Giles? Do you think would you be happy if he had to sort of cover in that position as well?
Yeah, I think so, Steve. I saw him a couple of times live last year, and I was quite impressed, to be honest. I think he's obviously needs to improve a little bit, but I'm sure he's in the right company with this manager and his staff. You've got to tip your hat to them because, as you just said there, in the short space of time that he's been here, he's totally transformed everything we do. It looks like from top to bottom. And I watched him closely on Saturday, and I love his energy on the side. He reminds me a lot of Malky on the side, you know, but continually encouraging and telling players what they should and shouldn't be doing, as opposed to what we experienced last year. But I think, to go back to your original question, he's great cover, Louis. We might even, who knows, we might even change to a 3 at the back with this new lad coming in from Luton, ex-Luton. Who knows? But I'm sure he's got a plan. If we don't get any other new signings, which it doesn't look like we've got them. But
I want to go back to Si, because he's doing 17 shows in like 3 hours or something. So he's only here for a short while. But I really wanted to get him on because of the links, you know, with Cardiff City World and Podcast Nation and Fan Network and everything else. And I'll come to Si in a bit, Steve, and I'll stick with you for now. But when we talked about this, because when we talked about the idea of being connected with this, me and Si were totally on the same page with that. You know, what the hell's the point of competing with each other? Let's work together because we all love Cardiff City. That's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? But Steve, I wanted to say, you know, you said about BBM, you know, but it's going to be BBM now, isn't it? You know, sounds a bit like BPM, Nigel. There you go. That you know, he's a breath of fresh air. But it's funny because when you look at it, we're still playing 4-2-3-1. Right, so we still got kind of 2 holding midfielders. We're still playing with inverted wingers. We're still playing from the back, but all of a sudden, we look so different. So, Steve, what's your take on that? What do you think? You know, what's the change? What's the difference?
It's a bit more of a fluid system from what I saw on the weekend, Steve. And I think the key to it all is we've got players like Joel Cole who are breaking lines now. You know, they're going in front of the forwards. They're getting into the box. And the amount of players that we got pushing forward all the time, which we didn't have last season. So I'm looking at the game last year, and you got maybe 1/2 players encroaching into the opposition box when we're pushing forward. But I mean, they're flooding forward at the moment, which is great. You've got Bagan overlapping. You've got Kapaki who's virtually playing as a right winger most of the time.
Like NG does when he's in. Yeah.
Yeah, which is totally the difference. But I think Joel Colwell on Saturday was exceptional. He was my man of the match by a mile on Saturday. I didn't see much of him up to this season, but that kid's energy in the midfield, and I read a couple of people today. I think we're going to be hard pressed to hold on to him. I think he's really good.
Yeah. So I'll ask you the same question. Well, you know, what in essence, what has Brian done? How is he? You know, how's this happening?
So
How we top the table?
Well, I think there's a couple of aspects to it. Number one, I thought, what they did, it was very clever. They got rid of players who were never going to be able to play the way that this manager wants to play. They got rid of the players who didn't have the legs, didn't have the energy, didn't have the mentality or the motivation to do so. And they did it. And incidentally, a lot of those were high earners. And one of the things that impressed the board about Brian Barry Murphy's interview, which is why he kind of ended up skipping up the queue so quickly in terms of the sort of shortlist, was he came into that interview and already knew a lot of the young players at the club, not just in the first team, but in the 21s as well. And he knew what he wanted to do with them and how he wanted to do it. And I think he said in a recent interview that he was surprised at just how much talent is there. But he had a good idea of that he was coming into a club that was had a very special group of players that just needed the right leadership, the right manager to mold them all together. But most of all, I think he's given them, you could talk about tactics and the rest of it, which I would correct you slightly on something, Steve, is that we're not playing a 4-2-3-1. We're playing a 4-3-3. Ryan Wintle as a single pivot and Ruben is playing as a 8. The only reason it looks like that 4-2-3-1 is because Ruben and Joel play so high when we have the ball. We have 5 across the front. It's quite refreshing, I got to be honest. But what I would say is, you look at, some of these players, the ones who, Callum Robinson, Ryan Wintle, Callum Chambers, even Ruben to a certain extent, they struggled last year.
Yeah.
But they're all working hard. Chris Willock is another really good example. Not only was Chris Willock struggling for any semblance of form, but he also looked like a player who wasn't that bothered and didn't want to work hard. He looks excited to work hard now. He looks excited to run back and to press and to win the ball back and do the dirty work. Ruben Colwell covers so much ground every game. And this is why, just to go off at a slight tangent, the Craig Bellamy not selecting him, it doesn't add up to me. The reasoning doesn't wash with me, because he has been consistent and he does press and run and sprint and all the things that were kind of used as the reasoning previously. And ultimately, it comes down to Brian Barry Murphy. Yes, it's his tactics, but I think a massive part of it is him giving them belief and the freedom to play, but also make mistakes. Because when you play out from the back and when you play off 1 and 2 touch and move the ball so quickly and players are rotating, you're going to lose the ball sometimes. But what we do is we get the ball back very, very quickly because they do it as a unit, as a group. And I think he's improved every individual, but I also think he's improved the partnerships and the team collectively as well.
So I was going to ask you something else, but I'll just ask you a straightforward one. Have you had any contact at all yet with Brian?
I haven't personally. A couple of people I know, obviously outside of the club, have. I'm trying to get a live event with him. I've applied. I've applied, but sometimes they like me, sometimes they don't. What can I say?
So I've never met him, but it's just something about him as a character, which, like Steve said, is like body language and all the rest of it. He just kind of exudes self-confidence, warmth, but also it seems total encouragement and total belief in his players, and I think that's a massive part about I think why we're doing so well. And I think the one thing I noticed as well, when the ball breaks now, you set up to 5, as soon as the ball breaks, we're just all over them. We're just everywhere, It must be a nightmare at this level. I just want to ask you one quick one before I go back onto Nige. Was it the 16 players I think have gone out during, on loan or leaving the club during the window? Any surprises in that for you in terms of outgoings and non-outgoings?
I probably think the only one which surprised me, although it didn't, as the way things developed, was probably Aaron Ramsey. I thought Aaron would stay, and I think he probably wanted to a certain degree. But I think as things kind of played out the way they did and things happened, it was almost impossible for him to stay, which, it is what it is, I suppose. It's the way sometimes these things happen in football. But to be honest with you, the rest which have left, I don't think they would have been able to play the way that we want to play ultimately. And, there's no disrespect to them. Everyone is more suited to different tactics, different way of playing, different skill sets. In terms of the out, I kind of thought, I expected Ryan Wintle to go. I got to be honest. I think what a redemption arc he has had.
Yeah.
Just his attitude, his performances. I've never seen him play like he's playing. And Callum Robinson was another one I thought might go. But again, he's working hard when he comes on. So all you can ask ultimately, isn't it, is that they give everything they've got.
So Nigel, I was slightly surprised at with with Callum Chambers, really, that he's kind of stuck around. Been given the captaincy, and going back to what Si was saying there about the pace and the way that we play. He's not an obvious one to fit into that kind of model, and also I believe he's will be one of the highest earners, or was at least one of the highest earners. So, and he's getting on a bit. He's the old man of the squad now, isn't he? So maybe a slight surprise about that. But can you see him being able to push his way in there? And would you think that might be also in midfield, perhaps at one stage?
I think he's got a bit of a fight on his hands, haven't he, with the way the midfield are performing, and obviously we've got the new signing today, because he hasn't really got a home as a centre back, and to be honest, that never looked his position last season. I was surprised to see him try it again here early this season, and again it didn't really work out for him. When he comes off the bench, though, I think in a couple of games recently, he does have something to offer, because I think, one of the things for me this summer was I didn't think we had enough leadership, enough experience, enough know-how, and enough players who performed at this level. As it turned out, the players we got have adapted so quickly, and we had that messy game at Port Vale where we were quite lucky to get away with a 0-0, and it seems like a lot of lessons were learned from that night, and players, were. And you're going to get these tricky away games from time to time, haven't you? But I think everyone has sort of quickly adapted from that. But I still think, maybe it might have been best for Chambers himself if he'd moved on this summer. And I guess he'd prefer to be someone where he's going to play every week. But he's got something to offer. But I think he's got a hell of a fight on his hands to get many appearances or starting jobs for us this season. But, when it comes to the heat of the battle, we're going to have some tricky games. Games are going to get tense through the season. You might just need someone like him who can put a foot on the ball.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, just to come on as an experienced head to see out games and calm things down. There's a comment which came in from Jamie now, which I want to ask you about. Yeah. I'm sure Si and Steve might want to chip in on this one as well. So he says we have to go down. It was for the best. We've been circling at the bottom for years, wasting money. Things are fresh now, and the reboot is real. So, in all honesty, when we this was put forward, it's been put forward on shows. Size out this loads of times last season as well. It'd be good if we went down so we could start again. We'd all no, we really don't want to go down. We really want to stay in the championship. So, it's early days, Nige. But are you seeing things more encouragingly now or differently now?
We've got here more by accident than design, haven't we? But I'm sure I'm not the only fan who's been thinking, what if we got rid of Risa many months ago last season, and we had someone like Barry Murphy, and then we'd probably still be in the championship, and we'd be able to, have a new start in the championship. As it is, we've got to go again from League One. But it's a good learning ground for these players, and they clearly are getting a boost of confidence. And to be honest, the atmosphere on match day now is special as well, isn't it? And I think that inspires the players as well.
Weirdly,
we all look forward to going. Yeah, we all. When I saw the fixture list come out this season, I thought, oh my God, who wants to watch these games? But all of a sudden, we all want to be there again. And to be honest, I think the club should be now going out with new season ticket offers to fans, because it's great. I'm in work today. Everyone's talking about Cardiff City again. Last year, they were taking the mick out of me, and now they're all, oh, what a great result on the weekend. How good are they? That buzz is back in the community again. And the club, if they can get their marketing and commercial act sorted out, it's a good time now to really try and cash in and build this club even more, because it is a reset. And whether it's by accident or design, it is a time that we can actually do something and, really get things moving again at this club.
Steve, what's your thoughts on that one?
That's a really great.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, no, that's a really great point with the marketing. I mean, that is spot on. Something I was thinking about the other day, and we haven't been the best at marketing our club, I don't think, over the past X number of years. But I mean, to put season tickets, where there's renewed enthusiasm, amongst probably lots and lots of people who probably lost it, it's a great idea. That season ticket idea. On the subject of going down. On the face of it, we're really lucky that we got BBM at the helm now. But I really think League One is a better platform for all those young kids to gel together rather than the Championship. I think the way we've started in League One, it just looks like it's a better, even though we'd obviously prefer to be a league higher, obviously, and it was rough and tough to go down. I think League One, for these young guys coming through the academy, is a perfect platform for them to gel together and push on. And I'm sure, we've seen the benefits of a decent manager and great staff over the first couple of weeks. So long may it continue. And I think going down, in retrospect, has done us a bit of a favour, be it by
Yeah. So what's your take on that? 'Cause it's a bit of a weird one, taking a pretty big step to take a major step forward, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, look, of course, it's easier with hindsight, isn't it, to say, yeah, it's better to go down and stuff like that. Because ultimately, right, if we stay up, we retain a lot of those players that we released in the summer. If we stay up, if Brian Barry Murphy had come in when, say March time or whatever, he'd have had so much pressure on him to stay up.
Yeah.
Does he then see out does he survive into this season? Like, there's so many different elements, whereas a fresh start in the summer in League One, as Steve rightly says there, that it's a good learning ground for these guys. It's not quite as intense as the Championship, but it's a massive physical test. And I think a season in League One now, if we can go up this year by hook or crook, doesn't matter how, if we can go up with these players this year, that will set them up beautifully for next year. And I don't want to be that guy, but all of these players were available to us last year, and that's the frustrating thing, because I think most of them could have done a job last year, but we didn't have managers who had the courage and the belief in them to play them. Dylan Lawler is a sensational defender already.
I think the other thing there, Si, is that the style of football they're playing this season, it's a style of football those boys were playing in the under-21s last season, isn't it? But when they stepped up and came into the first team, not that they had many chances, it was all that pump that ball forward. There was none of these passing and hunting packs, that sort of thing. So when they actually had their chances last season, the football they were being asked to play was so alien to what they were doing in the 21s, But in fact, most of those boys were the best performers when they had their chances last season. It was the senior pros that were letting us down, really. But I think what they're seeing, they're benefiting from Barry Murphy playing the same type of football that they've been playing in their levels for the last couple of years, and it makes that adaptation this season much easier for them.
Of course, I think Darren Pearce deserves a massive amount of credit as well. Him and Gavin Chesterfield over the last few years have prepared these players for this exact kind of scenario in terms of playing first team football. You look at the plan, just Joel Colwell as an example. They had a plan last year, which was to send him to League Two. Yeah. If he did well, they would recall him in January and send him to League One for the second part of the season, with the idea that in the summer he would be integrated into the first team. They were very confident that would play out like it did. And he looks absolutely ready. He looks one of our best players. And, it's not just him. There's others. Ronan Kapakio had a serious knee injury. They've spent a lot of time preparing him for that, because I was one who was quite concerned that we were going to overplay him because Perry NG was injured at the start of the season. Ronan was coming back from a serious knee injury. I just felt like, if we play him every week, is that going to burn him out? Is that going to, cause a reoccurrence of the injury? But they had a plan, and I just think, everyone's very quick to criticize Cardiff City Football Club for whatever reason. And when it comes to the board and the owner, I get it. But, the people who are there day to day, the Darren Pearces and the Gavin Chesterfields and the, even Tom Ramasolt, I see him take all sorts of abuse. Like, the guy has done such a good job with the young players over the last couple of years, and we're seeing the what's the word? Like we're seeing the fruition of their hard work for the last few years. And just as an example, I saw a couple of people sort of having a go at Darren Pearce the other week because the 21s had lost in a cup game against Cambrian. But those same people were also calling for X, Y, and Z under 21s player to be in the first team in the cup the following week. So it was almost like, who do you think got those players ready for you to be calling for them? And I just think it gets missed sometimes what a good job the academy at Cardiff City Football Club, what a good job that system is doing, because there's another crop coming through. There's already 2 or 3 in the 21s who I think might be in the first team by the end of the year. There's already several under 18s who look like they could be the real deal as well. And that's before you get into the younger again. There's a 16-year-old who's playing for the under 21s at the moment who is something special. And it's exciting time. If you can't get excited about this in your hometown club being top of the league, full of academy graduates and young players playing attractive football, then maybe football's not for you,
Yeah. So that's a great comment. Actually, just following up from what Si just said, which I couldn't agree with more. This is the first one of these. I'll give it to you, Nigel. One of the super glass full. We have the most dynamic squad in the league. A couple that with the best manager. We are on for a record points haul.
Fabulous, isn't it? The only thing we got to complain about was getting soaked at final whistle, and those in the car park took a while to get out on Saturday, isn't it? That's the only thing that's complained about this season, really. We're gonna have tricky times. We haven't gone behind in any game since Peterborough in the first match, and they were a poor side, and we can see that now. So the next 2 games are pretty tough. I think Stockport away and Bradford down here. They're going to be big tests for us again. So look, it's an amazing start, and we've given ourselves a nice cushion that when we hit these blips on the road, we've got a bit of a safety net now. We're not going to fall away from contention anytime soon, and that's really important for me. But obviously, these boys will get tested in a different way to they've had it recently. But let's look at how they scrape that win. It's a scrape that win at Wimbledon, isn't it? And that was a great confidence booster, and I think they've really taken a lot of heart from that one that they've taken into the game since. And, everything is clicking really, really well at the moment. And the longer it continues, the better and more fun it is for us. And we've just got to sit back and enjoy these times because as we know, we're all been around watching City all our lives. These good times are short in comparison to what we normally have. So, who knows how long this will last? It's looking good, looking promising. Yeah. Let's see. Just enjoy it while we're here.
It is kind of like it's that kind of thing we all talk about. Like Steve would get this from last season. Give the kids a chance. Let's give them a run. And now they are. Not only that they're playing great, but what's interesting, Nigel, I think, is with the way we're playing, because it's really expansive, and and like Si says, we naturally, particularly with younger players, are going to take a few risks because we just go for it. We just go through full throttle, basically, right? But it's interesting, isn't it, that when we're playing that way and we're scoring all these goals, how few we're conceding from open play. If you think about, pretty youthful, very youthful actually, very youthful back four, so that's really encouraging as well, isn't it? Because we think we're not going to concede, but we know we can score, and we do.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's quite funny. I think we've had to re-educate ourselves as fans, haven't we? Because this isn't a type of football that we're used to watching at Cardiff City. We like the up and atom type thing in their faces, and the blood and passion and everything. And we are getting that, but it is a different, the way that they're very patient in their football, their build-ups, and sometimes we felt we can be frustrated because we don't see the shots or enough crosses or enough quality crosses going in. And to a certain extent, Salek and Robinson aren't getting the openings that we'd like to see him having, but I think that will come as we get through the next few games. But it is a lot. It's we're not used to seeing Cardiff having 65-70% possession and doing all they're doing at the moment. But how enjoyable is it when we're getting positive results up from it as well?
And we should also mention, I'll go to Steve in a second, but we should also mention that amazing goal from Mr. Ryan Wintle. I didn't know he had that in his locker. What an unbelievable strike!
I don't think he knew he had that in his locker, did he?
Great goal. Right up there, isn't it?
Didn't he score one at Wigan a few years back? I remember him scoring I'm sure he scored away at Wigan.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. You're right. To be honest, I think every game, bar the scrappy winner at Wimbledon, we scored a fantastic goal in. The Ruben Colwell free kicks. There was the 34 pass move goal, wasn't it, the other week? I think every match of this season we've seen a classic goal. And we've probably got 4 or 5 contenders for goal of the season if we went back through some of the ones we've seen. And we're still in August.
Which is great, and they're having a pop. They're just all prepared to have a pop. Because Ryan Wintle, Steve, he scores once in a blue moon, but maybe every time he does it is a belter. But that was an absolutely top draw, fantastic strike. So comment here from somebody on Jamie again, talking about Rambo. So he's saying he's glad that Rambo moved on. A wise choice in hindsight. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
It's like Nige said earlier, Steve. It was the way it all panned out. I think Rambo, when he brought in Gunter, it looked like that they sort of set their heart on being a new management team, I think. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. Perhaps Si knows a bit more. I don't know. But I think it was probably in the best interest of everyone that Rambo moved on when he probably saw that he wasn't going to get the manager's job for whatever reason. Was it money? Was it another reason? Was it who knows? Was it that he wasn't going to get full control? I've no idea, but I think it was for the best for everyone concerned that the Ramsey moved on. And I saw just now that he scored on the weekend, didn't he? He scored the last minute goal.
Who's just said that now?
Yeah. I mean, if he'd stayed with us, it's like everything else, Steve. There's so many different scenarios, like I think Nige said earlier, or Si said earlier. It's just the way it all played out. So, if BBM had come in last year, then a lot of those players that are gone might still be here. Who knows if we'd stayed up? There's all different eventualities, isn't there? But I think at the moment we've got the best one, which is great.
And Brian Williams, stick with you, Stephen. Now, again, going back to this idea about pace and fluidity, and taking people on and creating chances, and just going gung ho. Really, difference to me, he says, it is the high press and playing on the front foot. I mean, that's really evident, isn't it? It's just blatantly lovely to see, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the high press is brilliant, and that's what we were clamoring for last year, wasn't it? A bit more effort up front. We just allowed teams to come into the first third of our half and then attack them, whereas now we're pressing from the front. One thing I want to say though, and you touched on it earlier, was that I'll just put my centre forward hat back on here, and as a centre forward you want to score goals. When I went on the pitch, I wanted to score every game. I wanted to score more than one every game, and I'm sure Salek and Robinson are just the same. I just think on the right side where we were on Saturday, I just think Ashford lacks a little now and again. I don't know if you noticed the second half. I'll just take an example. Their right winger fizzed a couple of wicked balls in which a decent centre forward, he only wanted a touch, and we would have had a goal against us on Saturday. But I just feel now and again Ashford down that right side, he needs to go on the outside or whip a couple of early balls in for Salah. And that's what a centre forward is pining for, is an early ball fizzed into the box. And I think he comes back in a little bit too much. That's the one thing I'd say about Saturday's game that I felt was we could improve on that right side. But Willock on the other side is a revelation again in his press, and it makes such a difference when you've got people pressing from the front, because we're all pushing forward together and we're hunting in packs, we're hunting in threes, which is something which Murphy's obviously picked up, and it looks really good.
So sticking with Salah, comment from Jamie, but he might not be scoring. But he's taking up the right space. I mean, he's at the bar. He's there. He's always there or thereabouts, and he's an absolute pain, I'm sure, to mark. Any concerns about our strikers as such not scoring goals, or is that something we have to look forward to, because they're going to start scoring at some point, aren't they?
Yeah, Yusuf Salic doesn't worry me at all because I think ultimately he's contributing so much to the way we play with his little 1-2 touches when he drops into the space. And it's interesting when you see him drop into the space to receive the ball to feet, Ruben Caldwell is gone behind him and in behind in the middle. And a couple of times we've hit like a little chipped sort of diagonal through the middle to hit him when he makes that run in the space that Salic has vacated, and it hasn't quite worked. Like it's just sort of been like a little bit too heavy for Ruben to get there. That'll come off at some point. And I think ultimately Salic will score goals if you put the ball in the right areas. I think he's probably lacking a little bit of confidence because he's only got the one goal, but he presses like mad and he gets absolutely battered every game. But then the second he sort of brushes a defender, the defender falls down and they get a free kick, which is always the way for these big lads. But for me, he does so much unseen work for the team. He's a big part of how the system works. And I think, and look, you know, if Louis Giles does come in and give Joel Bagan a rest in this system, playing for this manager, if Louis Giles gets in an overlap position, you watch the quality on that boy's crossing. He will get a few assists for the likes of Yusuf Salic. I would hazard a guess if he gets the opportunity to play. But yeah, I think we do need to. Sometimes we could whip the ball in because we work very good positions to cross from, and sometimes we look to, you know, and it's come off. So I suppose you can't complain too much. But we do sometimes look for those sort of the 1-2 inside and try and work something around the edge of the box or in the box instead of just putting it in the box. But I think it'll come. Callum Robinson scores 5 goals, 6 goals in a row, and then he'll go quiet. So I'm not worried about him either because I know historically, once he scores 1, he'll go on a little run.
So I don't know how long we got you for, Sykes. I know you're straight into you're straight into another show in a minute. But just wanted to say a couple of things to you. Firstly, well done, Graham Kavanagh, and mate, what a coup that is. That's fantastic. He's the one. He's probably one of the one players most City fans. He's right up there, isn't he? He's the one they want to see, they want to hear from. So well done. That's fantastic, and it's just sold out instantaneously, hasn't it?
Yeah, 5 days sold out in 5 days. The only one which sold out quicker was Craig Bellamy, which sold out in 48 hours, I think. So it's coming and it's quick as well. So it's obviously 19th of September.
Not
so
far away.
We put some extra tickets on sale at the end yesterday or the day before, and I think they've gone as well. I think there's 2 tickets left in the £20 lot, and that's about it. So even the extra tickets that we put on sale just went. So yeah, he's popular. And incidentally, I'm doing another one, which will be at the end of October, which is a bit more of a slightly more recent player, which I think people will enjoy. So you'll have to keep a lookout for that one.
Oh, that's typically you. That is, you know, make him guess, and
yeah. I'll tell you what, I've got one in January with Steve McPhail, which I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, beautiful. That's another.
It's
going to be December, but it's been moved. So
brilliant. It's great you do that because the club do these events, don't they? But then normally come with a 3-course dinner and looking for 60, 70, 80 quid. So it takes most of us fans out of it. So the fact you're doing stuff like that is fantastic. Good on you, mate.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, it's just like it's cheap. The drinks are cheap. And it's for the people at the end of the day. Like I said that from the start, I wanted it to be intimate and small. I've had a couple of offers to do, quite large venues, and I'm not like it might be something that I visit, in the future. I'm not going to say I won't do it, but it's not something that I'm massively looking to do. I like doing, 100, 150 people at the most, and it being really intimate, so that every single person who comes to that event, if they want to have a couple of minutes with Cav, or if they want to have a photo, they will get that, and they will not get charged an extra 20 or 30 quid to do so, which some places charge, on top of the 30 or 40, 50 quid for a ticket. They also charge for a photo, and they also don't get the opportunity to ask a question. The second part of the evening, we open it up to the audience to ask questions to the guests. So yeah, it's going well, and like everyone has got bigger and better and sold out quicker. And I'm, you know what, at the end of the day, I've been learning as I go along as well. It was new to me and trying different things. And but at the moment now, like the last four was Joe Ledley, Craig Bellamy, Glenn Louvens, and then Cav. They all sold out. They've all been 100% positive feedback. And I don't say that as like a, you know, like an advertising slogan or even like a boast. I just mean every single bit of feedback, and we had a lot, was wholeheartedly positive, which is nice.
We're talking about wholehearted positivity, and maybe this will be your last contribution, Sykes. I know you've got to go quite soon. Thank you very much for doing it tonight.
Right.
Sol Bamba, Sol Bamba, what a lovely tribute. And as far as I can tell, respected by both sets of fans, and BBM with the banner at the end, and beautiful, really. It's beautiful that that someone like Sol Bamba comes into our lives, really, is one thing. But he's just so well respected and thought of. So it's one of the nice things about our sport, I think. Si, that kind of thing, don't you think?
Yeah, it brings everyone together, and obviously it's a terrible thing, and it's sad that it takes something so tragic to bring people together. But the Plymouth fans, as you say, they respected it, they joined in, and they were really good. And that was the same with Cardiff and Leeds last year. The fans were excellent with it, and I just think Sol Bamba, what a guy. I only ever had the pleasure of speaking to him once, but he just had so much time. And when I spoke to him, he really was one of those people who you really felt like he was listening to what you were saying, rather than sort of half listening, half thinking about something else, what he's gonna have for tea or something. Like he was genuine, like he just a real genuine guy. And obviously, I know a lot of people who were close to him. I know a lot of his teammates, and it's been tough for them, a lot of them, because I think he was so popular, and particularly the ones who were very close to him, like Mark Hudson and people like that. Like it's been a difficult year for them in that respect. And I think when you see the tributes that get paid to him on Saturday, I think that means a lot, not just to Sol Bamba's wife and family, but also to his teammates. I think people forget that sometimes, the impact that it has on his former teammates and things like that, his friends, because it would have been very difficult. And I know there's not many footballers who are so universally loved. I would say I've never heard anyone say a bad word about him ever, and I can tell you from speaking to a lot of footballers, that isn't common. They've normally got a bad word to say about someone, somewhere along the line who they've come across. I've never ever heard anyone say anything remotely negative about him, let alone bad. Just a genuinely nice guy. And as you say, that image of Brian Barry Murphy with the scarf, and
lovely,
just before that with Ruben, Ruben did the same. And I just thought, the Brian Barry Murphy just gets it in terms of what this club is, the relationship with the fans, and everything which goes about it. And I for one am very proud that he's our manager at the moment.
Yeah, well said. Thanks, Si. Thanks for being on, and have a little break before you go again. Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.
See you again. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Right.
I don't know whether Steve or Nige, you want to quickly add to the comments about Sol?
Oh well, yeah, he's an absolute legend, isn't he? Ironically, the last time I had a good conversation with him was when we were in the Premier League. I was in Birmingham before the away game at Wolves, and they come out of a hotel. They were having stayed in a hotel overnight, and they were getting on the coach. And I had a good chat with him for about 5 minutes, and he posted photos. My daughter was with me, and that was the day he had that terrible injury at Wolves and got stretchered off. Effectively, it ended his Cardiff City career. But when I had a milestone birthday, about 3 or 4 years ago now, he was seriously ill, and he was at Middlesbrough at the time. And he got a message to me. Got out of bed and did a video message to me to wish me a happy birthday. And he was really struggling. And Chloe said that he had to get out of bed to record this message to go and then go straight back to bed afterwards. But he didn't want to let down a Cardiff City fan. One, because it was me. It was because he had a message from someone else. Could he record a video message for a fan having a milestone birthday? So it's those little things, isn't he? He was connected to the fans, and he understood what the club and what the players meant to supporters. And it's quite easy to be, for a lot of players these days, where they're more aloof from us. They don't drink in the same pubs as us anymore, to not have that connection. But he got it. What a man. And can I just quickly mention, while we're talking of former City greats, Don Murray, who some of us older ones will know as a centre-half legend, is particularly unwell at the moment, and he's been in hospital. He's been in hospital for the last 4 weeks, and apparently not doing too good at all. So for those who know Don and full in love for him, like some of us older ones are, best wishes, Don. Recover soon, and best wishes to the family as well.
Yeah, totally, utterly support that. Steve, anything to add to those comments?
Two great warriors there. You could mention Murray and Campbell in the same breath, Nigel, to be honest.
Absolutely.
They were both leaders. I think the best tributor. I mean, he always came across as a lovely bloke. Even when he was on Sky Sports and doing media stuff. But I think the best thing I read about him, Steve, was it may have been Warnock, actually. I saw something on the weekend, and he said, I waited and waited to get Sol. He said, I didn't know what club. Apparently, he had about 4 or 5 offers on the table before he came to City, and he was just waiting to pick the right one. His Warnock was that type of guy, wasn't he? Where the clubs would go to him if they just wanted a little bit of a pick me up to stay up. So he said, I had about 4 or 5 offers, and I was waiting for the right one. He said, and when Cardiff came along, he said, I knew about. I had Sol on a bit of a string. He said, I wanted to take him whatever club I went to. I wanted Bamba with me, and fair play to him. He said he waited and waited and waited, and eventually he came to us from Leeds, I think, wasn't it, Nigel? Off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, he's a free agent at the time, wasn't he? But I think Leeds were the clubs were to us, yeah.
But he went on to say, Warnock, Steve, that if there was any trouble in the dressing room when he was in charge of the City, when he took us up, it was always Morrison and Bamba that sorted things out. He said, I didn't have to do anything because those two took complete charge of the dressing room. And it was a real nice insight into the way the bloke was. And as you both said earlier, and as Si said, he got Cardiff City. And as Brian Murphy has as well, they both get Cardiff City.
I don't know whether you saw the comment earlier as well, talking about former players, and again, Don Murray's one of my all-time heroes. I didn't realise he was unwell. It's really sad to hear that. Jumpers for goalposts, which is one of the best names used on here, to be fair. Our ball retention and rotations are stellar compared with any other League One teams. Compliments and manager teams we've played against already confirm this. This is the line you're going to put a smile on your face, Nigel and Steve. Haven't been so happy since Clarkey scored against Madrid.
God, yeah, I was in the enclosure next to Nigel Rees as he crossed. I must have been about 20 foot away from him when he put that ball over for Clark. Yeah, standing on a pop crate at the front of the old enclosure. Yeah, fantastic. But talking that, did you see the words of the Plymouth manager on the weekend saying how proud Cardiff City fans should be of their club at the moment, seeing all those academy boys, and he's just Plymouth and him feel inspired to try and replicate what Cardiff are doing. I thought they were well beaten on the day, but you don't normally get that sort of quote from a manager, do you? But from an opposing manager, I thought they were fantastic words and really sums up how well this club are doing and that BBM and his players are doing at the moment.
And not to be patronising about it, because we do the same thing when we will do the same thing when we go to Plymouth. But 12:30 kickoff, 3,000 fans. Fair enough. Good turnout. Yeah. Steve, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, off the back of that, Nigel, I think I read, I think it was across the weekend, that Murphy, when he was invited for an interview, had already done so much research on the young guns, on the academy players, to the extent that he absolutely flummoxed probably the people that were interviewing him with his knowledge of the players that were in available to him in our squad. And I think
He probably didn't know the players.
but that's sort of you can see why. What you can see probably with that why he's hit the ground running, because he seemed to have so much knowledge of a lot of these young players, probably more than probably the managers that were in office before him, and he's coming in ground running and taking us to another level, really. Early days, I know, but fair play.
Well, the football is on a different level, isn't it, to any other team in this division at the moment? We are on a level.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter, we had to drop my daughter off on the weekend. She's doing a postgrad, so it was she's kind of the Beatles song "She's Leaving Home" was in my head as we were driving. Put it that way. Anyway, her boyfriend is lovely and her family are lovely, and she's going to be staying there. They're Birmingham City fans, right? And so they had their kind of League One tour last year, and I wish I put £100 on them to go up, because they were always going to win it. And I didn't. I'm a City fan. I didn't feel the same about us. We might. Let's hope we're in the playoffs plus. But at the moment, it's looking fantastic. But let's not count our chickens just yet. But Nige, would you, at this point, I'll ask you a super stupid question because it's a phone in. So are we going to win the league or what?
How do you like that? Yeah. I was like you, Steve. Before the ball was kicked, I thought we've got some really good youngsters here, but we haven't got enough leaders there. We haven't got enough experience in the squad. And I was thinking we're top 10. And if we can bring in a couple of players in this window, maybe we can do a little bit better than that. I didn't envisage us being a playoff team or even an auto team, and maybe that's just a natural cynic in me.
And me,
but I did feel we were short. But when you look at the squad now, because we've seen what these kids can do and how brilliant they are, and the work rate that they put in, and the performance levels being like nothing we've seen down there for years. You've got to have hope and have confidence that they can, I felt the last couple of games, they've been fantastic and it can only get better. Because they are, the more they play, the more they learn together, the better they're looking. And that's why we've had those great wins, the 3-0, 4-0 the last two home games, and Luton a great 1-0 win where we played Luton off the park, didn't we, for 45 minutes. The second half was a bit more even. This is fantastic stuff. It's beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah, Steve, anything to add to that?
No, I endorse that, Nige. The other thing I'd like to mention as well is, we were told that he wanted to bring in quality rather than quantity. I mean, I'd never heard of Trott before he signed for Cardiff City. He only had to make a couple of saves Saturday, but he made them. A really, really great signing. The kid who used to play for Luton, another great signing. I don't know much about this the young guy from Chelsea we got on loan today, but I mean, on the face of it, he's got two cracking signings into the club. To add to all the quality that we've got.
Yeah, the funny thing with Trott, I don't think any of us had heard of Trott, and when we signed him, a lot of Copenhagen fans were putting messages on Twitter saying, glad you've taken him off.
One of our best strikers went there.
I know, but when he's
still
at Copenhagen, at Copenhagen, he was understudy for a lot of last season to Runnison, who was one of the worst goalkeepers. I've seen that he was with us a couple of seasons back, wasn't he? And absolutely dreadful for us. And I'm thinking, we got this Trott now. What's going on here? But again, he's fantastic. He's going to get caught out with those Cruyff turns one day, and things like that are going to go wrong at some point this season. Yeah. But he's given that defence so much confidence in front of him. He's shouting and organising, which we didn't see Horvath do at all last season. And the defence was scared because he just gave them no confidence at all, did he? So I think when a couple of weeks ago I would have said we didn't have much of a spine in this team, but all of a sudden you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously BBM knew him from somewhere, or he'd been watching him, or He must have done his research. I mean, to bring in someone like that. But I've been really impressed with the goalie. Like I said, didn't have much to do Saturday, but he organises, and that's a big. We all know it's a big thing on the football pitch. If you got a keeper that's organising you well, that's the start of your spine. So hats off to whoever recruited him. Fair play.
So we're going to come to the end of the show now. Thanks, Nige. Thanks, Steve. And thanks, Si, for being on earlier. And over the next couple of weeks, you may well see more input from Nige and Si. As Nige and Steve, rather. Yeah. Watch out for that, because I'm heading off to other places again. But great to get the show going again. Thanks. There's loads of people viewing tonight, and loads of messages. And, it's just a mouthpiece for City fans to discuss stuff. And thanks again to Si from Cardiff City Wheel for having us on the platform, because it's great to be part of it. And the closing comments coming in tonight, quite rightly, are talking about Don Murray and lots of love and respect and thoughts going towards Don and his family. So from the Cardiff City phone, and all the best to Don. Let's hope we hear some good news on that. And apart from that, we'll be back with the Cardiff City phone-in very soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Maxwell Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.